What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Gramercy Theater, and today we are here with Mike of Flotsam and Jetsam. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. So awesome to have you here. It's going to be a kick-ass show tonight. The first question, first things always first, your latest record is The End of Chaos, which came out in January. You want to give a rundown on how the making of the record is and the record cycle thus far?
We have a new addition to the band right now. Ken Mary came in as drummer. He stepped in for Jason Bittner, who left and went to Overkill, which is very cool. And Ken brings a different aspect to our band. You know, it makes it five people that actually write and actually it's very cohesive. And he's got a studio, so we do drum tracks at his house. We do guitar tracks and vocals at Steve's and my house. Put it all together and having everybody being able to work at Pro Tools and have part of the production process is really helpful. So a little change in format for us of how we do it, but generally pretty close to the same.
Yeah, awesome. And you mentioned that Ken, being he played with Accept and a lot of other different bands, and you kind of just answered the question, but it wasn't like you had him just learn the style of Flotsam and Jetsam. You wanted him to bring a little bit of his own mix, right?
Yeah, we did. That's one thing that we won't do if we get a new member. We don't want to change anybody's style. We're bringing them in because we're appreciating what they do. Same thing when Steve joined the band. It wasn't like we want you to be Edward Carlson. We want you to be Steve Conley and bring your style to the band and elevate it a little bit, And Ken did the same thing.
Absolutely. Now, being that this was 3 years since the release of your self-titled record, and, you mentioned that it was a change of format, so this wasn't just like a follow-up record, right? It was just, it stands out in your catalog.
I would say stepping stone, the last record, stepping stone into this one.
Okay.
So the next one, we're already working on it. It's going to be another level again. So the End of Chaos seems like the self-titled seemed to put us back on the map as a metal band, speed metal band. The End of Chaos coming out now, they've kind of put us in, they've added us to a new genre of metal, which is the power metal, which we've never been a part of that before. But we're getting those fans coming through, especially in Europe and stuff like that. We're hearing from the Vikings.
Yeah, which is awesome. Well,
Very cool.
From listening to you guys, you have that classic thrash element, that we all know and love. But I've always thought that you guys kind of maybe stood out. I've always thought that maybe somebody who likes a power metal band like Sabaton could appreciate you guys, or Creator or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's seeming more like that. I think this record Into Chaos is really helping that out.
Yeah.
Instead of it just turned off to like a thrash band. We're not just a thrash band anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe in our early days you could do that. You could say that, but not now.
Yeah. Well, thrash has evolved so much. I mean, you compare like Metallica to Slayer to Sepultura to Overkill. Like a lot of these thrash bands stand out in their own right. A band like Power Trip now is even very different. So, what makes a band thrash to you? Like, how do you define that subgenre on the periodic table?
I don't really know. I guess it's like the reaction to it. If it makes you feel like punching someone in the face and getting in a mosh pit or whatever, that's probably what the classification would be.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know. I can't really tell some of those genres, the differences.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people say when they hear modern day pop music, they want to punch someone in the face. So
Well, yeah, I think that's a little different, though. I mean, that's not from the music. That's just from hatred of the shit that's out right now.
Yeah, exactly. Now, being that you've been in the band now, for quite a long time, for you, has the making of every record been its own experience still to this day? Or for you, like going into the studio, you kind of have like a little bit of a certain mind frame in the songwriting process?
For me, I was one of the main songwriters back in '85 when I joined. I Live You Die was like the first song I wrote with this band, and over 30 years, seeing the classic, going into a studio with a huge mixing board and spending $150,000. From then until now, when you can do a record for $5,000, it's really cool to kind of see those changes and be involved in with how it all works and knowing how to do all that. But also the songwriting process, I don't know, it's still been the same, as far as like how I come up with a riff and put it on tape. Before I used to put on a cassette tape and multi-track with that, which was insane. It takes forever to do that. Now you just turn your Pro Tools on and play the riff, and then drag some drums over to it, and you have an idea.
Yeah. Some people are saying that digital nowadays is starting to sound as good as analog too.
Yeah, I could see that. It's kind of funny how all the digital stuff is now trying to mimic analog. Why can't we just go back to analog, right?
Yeah.
It's just going backwards to me, but
Yeah. Well, that tape gets pretty expensive, right?
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned like when you're coming up with a riff, is that pretty much like the overlying armature of each song? Is it always starting off with riff, or do you have to like write riffs over a beat or something like that?
Sometimes it just depends on the mood. Sometimes I'll sit there and nothing happens. And I know Steve's the same way. We both work in our own studio environments, and it's the same thing. You're playing, you're just practicing, and you're like, oh, shit, I got a riff here. And then you'll put it to a click track, and then you'll add drums to it, and then it starts to get life, and it's getting its legs, and then sometimes it just nothing comes of it, and sometimes it writes itself. Some songs do that pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, when you're playing live, do you try to execute the material live exactly how people hear it on the album, or do you try to make the live presence like a little bit different than if people were just simply listening to you guys?
We try to imitate it exactly. They come to hear something. If they hear a memorable guitar solo, where if there's a solo on the record that's memorable, they want to hear that live. The Europeans they're really strange about that. They'll be like, your solo was shit tonight. They'll tell you right to your face, and it's kind of cool. It makes me smile, but it's like, I know, we're all entitled to fuck up a little bit, and then sometimes I do a little improv, and that doesn't go well with the Europeans. Americans are just like, fuck it, I'm gonna go get another beer.
They're the three most honest people in the world are little kids, drunk people, and Europeans.
Yes, totally.
Yeah. Now, with the guitar soloing, because I've always thought that guitar solos are actually very similar to vocals in terms of how they convey melody and how they convey emotion. So with soloing, are you like listening to like the riffs and be like, I have to work off of this scale and this mode? There's like a theory element to it, or is there improvising involved?
When I'm playing live, a lot of the older stuff is improv because I don't know what I did on some of the earlier records. It was all improv. I never worked stuff out, but the later stuff, yeah, I've worked it all out, and it's not as fun when you play a worked out solo, because it's more of like you're trying to lock into the parameters of it and play it right. But when you're just improv, there's no rules, you just do it. Yeah. So it's fun for me to do the improv, but I know people want to hear, what's on the album.
Of course. And one other question I'm really curious about is, being that Flotsam and Jetsam has been around since the 1980s, I mean, the world has changed so much, not even just in the music world, but just, you look at the world now compared to how it was back then. Has the world's changing ever influenced you guys as a band as well? You mentioned that you evolved your sound a little bit, but like maybe conceptually as well.
Maybe a little bit. We stay away from politics because I think this is like music is people's exit from reality. When they get home, they want to listen to something that takes them out of their shitty day. And if they want to hear political preaching, they can turn the news on and listen to that. We're not into that. We don't want to manipulate anybody into believing what we believe. We just want to make good music and have fun doing it.
That's a breath of fresh air to hear.
Yeah.
And one other final question I have is, being that Flotsam and Jetsam did start in Phoenix, Arizona, the home of Sacred Reich, and, even nowadays I've heard there's a great metal scene out there now with bands like Gatecreeper coming out of there. Was there a scene that Flotsam and Jetsam started in Arizona, or did you guys kind of have to go outside the state line more or less to get your name out there?
We were one of the first bands in Arizona doing that stuff, so there were, again, no parameters. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what we were walking into. We didn't have a goal. We just wanted to jam and play in front of people. And what we would play when we were together, we never sat down and said, this is the formula. We're going to do it like this. We're going to play speed metal. I mean, it just happened like that. That's just the five personalities getting together and playing angry music. And we kept playing and it evolved. And next thing you know, we're playing outside of Arizona. We're playing in L.A. Then we start touring. We're touring Megadeth and then Europe, and then people telling me I got shit solos.
that's the highlight of this interview.
Yeah, so no, we didn't really put any expectations on it, and we still don't, because once you do that, your success, you're setting yourself up for failure. If you're putting like success up here with monetary figures and how many people show up at your shows. It's not really about that for us. It's about how much fun we have and this is super rewarding. I'm in New York. I live in Phoenix, and then I'm in New York right now. So,
Yeah, and we love our metal here. So.
yes, I'm looking forward to the show tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else for this record cycle would you like to promote in terms of tours or even new music? This is going to be uploaded before you hit the stage tonight. So if there's tours scheduled for 2029 or something like that, please don't announce it.
All right. We have Europe 3 more times this year. We're going over with Overkill again and Destruction. We just came back off a tour with those guys. It went fantastic. But before that, we do the festival circuit over there, and then we have a small club tour, so we're back there 3 times. And then after that, hopefully, we'll start up at the States again. So, awesome. And, we didn't hit all the major markets, so hopefully the second time around we'll come see the major markets. And, of course, New York again.
Please.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Everybody, Mike of Flotsam and Jetsam, The End of Chaos. Pick it up if you haven't already. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.